Hey everyone, I'm here with Bill Holland out of Washington. Hey Bill, um,
I
thanks for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
oh yeah, 71 years. Where do we start on that one?
Oh my goodness.
From Tacoma, Washington originally. Um, I'm just skipping the highlights. I was a teacher for 19 years. Owned a couple businesses. Decided I wanted to be a writer 12 years ago, and oh gosh, 8 novels, 6 novellas, 2 nonfictions, 1,600 articles. And then I freelance on the side, and I've done about 5,000 freelance content articles. So it's been a busy 12 years.
Wow, I didn't realize. I love that you have the numbers, being a numbers creative.
Hmm.
Like I have the analytical mind, and that I love that you had those numbers ready. That's so cool. I couldn't even tell you numbers. I'm so
Well, I was
proud
trying to
about
get
making
ready.
them.
I was trying to get ready for this show. I didn't want to look like
Okay.
I didn't want to look totally clueless, so
Well, you
I
did
had the numbers
good.
ready.
I love it. So, of one of those nonfictions that you mentioned is your latest memoir, correct?
It is,
Okay, so
uh,
tell us a
and the
little
Bl-
about that.
and the blind shall see is the name of the memoir. I was adopted at 9 months, and I was still blind at 9 months. And the doctors had no reason why; they couldn't figure out why. And so that's the central theme. It's a metaphor. The blindness really, I feel like I've walked through life blind for about 60 years. So I use that metaphor to point out how I finally found my way out of the darkness.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. It's on my list to purchase very shortly. Because so for the audience, I've been following Bill actually since he decided to become a writer. Back when you launched your hub pages, is where I met him, and I've just been following him, and then he come to find out he had a blog on WordPress, and I do my blogs on WordPress, and so I started following you there through an old one that you don't even keep anymore, and
Hmm.
then through the one you do now with Artistry with Words. And
Hmm.
I always love what you write. So speaking to you and the audience, I really enjoy how varied your blog is. So one day it might be personal experiences, another day it's looking at the dog and being out, and I still remember the day I was like, oh wait, the dog's not like, I remember thinking it was your wife's Peggy, right? Is that
Beth.
Bev, and I remember that you were talking, and I was like, oh gosh, this whole time I thought Bev was the dog's name. I mean, and it was so funny because I'm like, now this explains so much. And
That's
what a
hilarious.
revelation. Yeah, clearly context isn't always what I
Yeah.
pick up. But and then other times I love how it's just like, hey, here's a thought. Let's follow it through, and then writing practical things to help people who are in this community and being creative and wanting to explore things. And then I love when you touch on real life too. Like when your friend passed away, how you really brought that to like, hey, this hurts,
Yeah.
and here's this really good man that we've lost. And
Yeah.
so I love that you cover the gamut. And while I love niche blogs as well at times, I love that for years I never know what I'm going to say. When I see Artistry with Words posted a new blog, I'm always so excited because it's like, oh, what's coming up today?
No, well, thanks for that. I have a marketing background. When I was in college, I graduated with marketing and economics degrees, and I understand marketing. I understand the niche approach, and it's probably very smart if you're trying to make money. But I never went into writing to make money. Money was a way for me to express myself. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's why the blog is the way it is. I'll sit down and something will come to me, and it's like, huh, I've got to write about that. Somebody might find it interesting. I don't know, but I find it interesting, and so it's all over the place. And I'll finish a piece, and I'll think, that really doesn't tie into anything that I was doing before. It probably would be smart if I tied it in somehow, and then it's like, who cares? Let's move on to the next. Yeah.
I'm with you
So
on
my
that.
marketing degree is doing me no good at all, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I could actually relate to that because so as you know from seeing mine, I don't monetize mine at all. Like it's
Mhm.
actually one of my heart is to never monetize that blog if
Mhm.
possible. And if I ever do decide to do it, I think it would be that I know people. And so maybe I'd offer like some paid ads, but I just don't see a reason. It's my passion project. The Essential Creative, I do that for fun. You know,
Yeah,
it's a way to let people know about essential oils. And then, hey, because where I come from with the essential oils is this creative space, it's actually so many people don't even realize I ever started it about about the essential oils, because
yeah,
I focus so much on the creativity because that's my passion. And so it's more of like, here's creativity, and by the way, here's how I learned how to express it more. um,
exactly.
but it's the same thing with you. So for 12 years I blogged over at Eyes Straight Ahead, and I remember, oh my gosh, if I got 2 likes, it was such a good day,
I
because
know.
I was all over the place. I seldom cared who read.
Mhm.
I really was writing to develop my own voice, really. Like, you know, with the voice discovery coaching I do now, it's, if anybody ever went through it with a bottle of wine possibly or some water or tea and read that blog, they would have seen me developing my voice. That really was
Exactly.
like my foundation for understanding, how do I show up in the world? What messages are really my key points? And the Essential Creative is the way I get to, like, now that I know my voice, let's have fun with it. Because I'm not
Exactly.
a niche girl. I never was that one who blended in with one crowd. So you were teaching, and you got in to the writing, and I've watched your career just see, I'm from doing a couple, like, you know, tailored things on hub pages where it's less of the creative stuff and more targeted, and then
Mhm.
into the blogging where it's unleashed like this new bill as I've seen it. How has it all felt, you know, stepping in, because you stepped in later in life, which same with me, I didn't start till I was in my 30s. So you came a little later and said, hey, I'm going to try this. Like, talk to us about what that looked like for you.
It was a bizarre journey. It really was. And you mentioned teaching. The last teaching job I had was in Oregon. And so I would drive down to Oregon on Sunday and I would teach during the week, and I would drive back up to Olympia. And that's about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive one way. And so while I was driving down to Oregon, I was thinking of these. I'm just, my mind's constantly on the go. And so I just blank out of the scenery, and I was thinking of things like homelessness. And so I'd get down to Oregon, I'd sit down at the computer, and I'd write out this thing about homelessness. And then I'd post it on Facebook. And that's really how the writing started. And then I met my wife shortly after that, and she was reading this stuff, and she said, "You really need to get on a writer's site." And the writer's site that she picked for me turned out to be Hub Pages. And by that time, I was just in love with writing. I was having so much fun just writing my thoughts down. And I really, like you, I really didn't care if anybody read them. It was a way for me to express them. And it turned out people actually liked them. And it's like, oh my God, now what do I do? Well, you just keep writing, Bill. And so I got on Hub Pages, and there's something about my style that people enjoy. It's a personal style. You're going to see my heart and soul when I write about something. And I wrote a piece, I think it was the 4th article I wrote for Hub Pages, was a letter to my birth mother who I never met. And oh my God, Shell, that just took off.
I
I mean,
remember that.
literally, I was going from like 20 views to like thousands, like overnight. It's like, and it was scoring on Google. And it's like, I just felt like writing a letter to my mother. It was, and I found out people actually liked it, and they liked my voice, and they liked the fact that I didn't pull punches. I told people how I felt. It was a very personal way of writing, and that's just developed into the way I write now. You can tell my voice and practice. You can pick my pieces out from, you could take 50 random and you could find mine, because it's just the voice that's developed over 12 years. And it's the voice I'm stuck with, Shell. I like it.
I like it too, but
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
it really has been well received, and it's been fun. I've just loved the last 12 years.
Yeah, I remember that letter. I remember reading that because I remember you had come out And I would go over because, like, hey, I think I met you through one of the new, like maybe a Rising Stars or so. I forget how the whole Hub Pages thing. I actually used to enjoy it quite a bit. I loved the checks because they were like just enough to be really cool when they came
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
but yet not so much where you spent all your time there. Like it was
Right.
enough to whet my appetite and then be like, oh, cool, I can get three coffees this month, you know, or the frou-frou ones at the time. But it was nice because what I liked about Hub Pages, I learned a new style of writing over there. So like your letter to your birth mom, you could get away with because there's like an audience for it. But like a lot of the creative pieces weren't so much what that was for. It was more of these like how-tos
Right.
and educational, which is not something I do. I'm like, here's my thoughts. Welcome to my world. Oh my God, you just stepped in. You know, I
Yeah.
hope you
Yeah.
brought some what do you call that there? I can't think of the word right now, but like reinforcements, you know, with you because it's a scary place. But
Yeah.
that taught me how to look at the world a little different. I remember like Allie was only 2 or 3 when I was over there, and I would do things like how to have fun in New York on a family trip, you know, or I
Yeah.
did one where we went to the Children's Museum, and I remember like I learned how to really enjoy photography because, you know, you had to, what I liked about Hub Pages, it taught you with the templates that they do,
Right.
how to really get it going. I recommend it for anybody who's just starting out because by the time you get over to WordPress, instead of seeing the bloggers who really struggle, because you get to WordPress and it's just an open screen and
Hmm.
it's like hello blank slate. And I know as a coach, and I want to talk about your coaching too. I forgot to make a note to myself, but I want to talk about that. But I know like as a coach, one of the biggest struggles that the clients I work with have is like, Shell, I don't know what to write in a blank page. And it's like, oh my God, anything, what are you thinking
Yeah.
of right now? But WordPress, it intimidates because it's that blank page. So it's I'm not, where Hub Pages gave you that like, hey, have a picture, try to make it at least 300 words, now 1200, you know, what kind are you going for? And I really did like that. Sometimes I think about going back, I'll get the notifications from them still, and I'm like, there's got to be a password somewhere. But
Yeah.
so you started over there, and then you, with Artistry with Words, you were writing, you developed your voice, and I agree with you. I totally would be able to pick you out, which is what I love about you. That you're so clear in your voice. It is
Oh, thank you.
so, it's interesting to have somebody who's so clear in their voice and yet has so many topics, but you hit it on the nail and you write with your heart and soul. And that is something that you were doing before Brene Brown was popular, before we all knew about vulnerability and putting your gifts out there and being imperfect and all of her type teachings. You did that in a space like your letter to your mom was before open letters were popular. So this
Exactly.
wasn't trending because, you know, that was the latest thing. This was trending 12 years before, you know, those just became popular within the last 6 or so. You morphed that into, recently I saw you started coaching.
Hmm.
So talk to us about what that looks like.
Just it's an extension of being a teacher, and it's just a desire to help. I'm on this crusade. Okay, I know this is going to sound stupid, but I'm on this crusade to improve improve the quality of writing online. I've gotten so tired of. I always sound like a snob when I'm saying this, and I really don't mean to sound like a snob, but I think writing's like an art. It's an art form. And yeah, I understand that everybody should be able to express themselves. I get that. I'm not against that. But I just don't think it would hurt society at all if we up the game a little. You know, if we tried to improve the quality of our writing just a bit. And that's what I want to do. You know, before I reach the age where I can't help anyone and I'm drooling,
Oh, no.
I'd like to be able to I'd like to be able to share what I know so that the beginning writers, the ones that are struggling, the ones that can't find their voice, I can help them do that. And that's the whole point to it. You know, the only thing I struggled with was, should I do it for free or should I charge? And I've got so many things going on that I finally decided, you know, my time is at least valuable a little. And so I charged the minimum amount that I thought I could and still feel like I'm being a nice guy while I'm charging. And that's really all it is to it. You know, I've only got so much time, so I limit it to 6 or 7 customers every month because I can do that and do a good job for them and still do all the other stuff that I need to do. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, very nice. And it's super affordable. I was shocked. I'm like, there's got to be some numbers missing from that.
I know, I know.
But I
I've got a writing,
understand.
not a writing coach, but I've got a friend that does marketing on hub pages. Her name is Heidi Thorne, and she rolls her eyes at me every day. It's like, why are you charging so little? And it's like, well, most writers aren't rolling in gold. They don't have the money to afford a professional coach for $1,000 a month. They can't do it.
Right.
They need the help, but they can't find a way to do it. So,
And you're perfect for the individual who is just starting out. I think you'd be great for an experienced person too. So let me caveat, just for any experienced writers out there, I'm not saying you should not use Bill. You should. What I'm saying though is to that person. So as a coach, one of the things I have is one of my tiers of programming is for individuals who never could even click further when they see prices. It's one of the reasons I don't put a lot of my prices online. It's more of through like, let's talk, let's get a feeling for who you are and how you are. And then depending on the client, there are times that I've come down. One of the clients I work with, she couldn't have afforded the rates, but I loved how she approached me. And this is not a plug for other people to approach me this way. She's got the spot. But she had approached me at a time when I was doing a lot of pro bono work as well as working full time for myself. And she reached out and she said to me, I will do whatever it takes to afford you. I know that I can't, but I really feel like you're the person I'm supposed to work with. And she's been following the blog forever. I've been following her. I knew who she was. I'd seen her voice and was just honored that she would reach out because her call, what was interesting about it to me is what she was reaching out to me for was way over here. Something I would never have even considered working with somebody in that respect because
right.
nothing about my website said I did that. And so, with being a Christian, like I went and I prayed about it and I was just like, man, I can't shake this. Like I'm not supposed to say no to this woman, but I don't do this. And so I finally reached out to her and I said, you know what, we're going to work it out. And we had call 10 yesterday. And it has been a beautiful journey to where by working with her at a point she could afford, I actually have developed other programs that has
Yeah.
taken my coaching to another level because part of the agreement with her is by coming down on my pricing, I can have liberty to try new things with her. So
Sure.
I have the ability to show up, which you can't do when you're charging thousands a month. You can maybe, but I don't feel right doing it. I can't when you're paying so much of your earnings, consciously say, well, hey, Bill, let's just try something new. That it might work, it
Yeah.
might not. Where when
Yeah.
somebody's paying less, it's like, this is part of the agreement. By paying less, let's have fun with it. And there are times I've shown up to calls. I'm like, I'll tell you, I've done my homework all week. I'm ready. We're going to do this. And then the call will spin. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. And I
Yeah.
love it. I love it because some of that flexibility when you're charging more, you don't really feel. It's kind of like
Exactly.
having a W-2 job suddenly.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is what I've been paid for. This is what I'm going to deliver, even though this is burning up. And so I think having been on the receiving side, and that's part of why I pay it forward, but then also being somebody who's stepped into earning the higher prices. I love that you're working with that whole market who is lost and overlooked and doesn't always have the courage like she did to reach out to somebody to be like, hey, might take me a while to afford you, but would you at least consider so I know to start saving?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and I encourage anybody watching this, and even just from your launch, from going into teaching and retirement and writing, you never know what tomorrow can bring. You only can get told no. You can
Yeah.
only get told no. I asked a guy, he's a success coach, Darren Hardy. He has this great program I want to take, but it's not in my budget right now. Between my writing coach and the work that I'm doing, between my time and the budget, it's not there right now. Well, I reached out to his team and I was like, look, he had this deal where I could pay it over 12 months. But by doing it over 12 months, you lost all the free stuff. It's kind of was the bonus of it. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I get it, but like, is there a way to not penalize me because I don't have $500 today and over the next 4 months to pay, you know? And so I don't
Yeah.
know what they'll say. I have no clue what he said. I just sent the email 2 days ago. And we'll find out, but it's like, you never know. And what I said, if I don't ask, I won't know if he'll say no, or
Exactly.
if him or his sales team will say, you know what, God, the ball's on that girl for asking. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's fine. I earned a job in California when I was 21 years old because I applied for a marketing director position, and the guy said, I just need to bring you in because I can't believe you even had the balls to apply. I
I
ended up
love it.
becoming their marketing assistant, Bill. I did it the whole time I lived in San Diego, and I learned so much at that job, but it was all because I was like, I could do all that stuff. I
Of
had
course.
no degree. I had like
Yeah.
nothing at the time, but I was just like, I could do all that. Like, I'm gonna apply.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't remember the number of jobs I've done that I wasn't really qualified for. It's like, well, how hard can that be? We'll we'll learn on the fly. Yeah.
Right. Like, anybody can learn anything. I think
I
we
mean, we're
forget
not talking
that.
we're not talking rocket science for
Right.
most of these
If it's
jobs. It's
brain
like,
surgery, we'll let the
yeah,
medical people take that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, hey, what the worst they can do is they'll let you go. You know,
Right. Right. That's
you
what
got
I
an
actually
experience
said to
out of it.
him. I was
Yeah.
like, you've had the ad out for a month. I've seen it for a month. Um, Clearly you're struggling to find somebody you like. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're gonna love my personality. Everybody loves me. I'm like, that's never an issue that I have. I mean, some people, I'm like one of those lover or hater kind of girls. So I'm like,
Hmm.
some people do not like me. I'm like, but you know right away. There's no like, oh, she might be cool. Like, I'll get to
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that. Like, you know right away whether our personalities are done. And so I told him, I said, you'll know within 2 weeks whether I'll fit in here or not, because it was a sign company. So it was like a shop environment. I'd never done that. I was like a little corporate girl, working all these
Yeah.
temp jobs for things. But anyway, one of the things that taught me, actually, you mentioned homelessness earlier, and San Diego was one of my creative peaks. The book I have coming out with the poetry, one of
Hmm.
them that's in there is this one I wrote called The Final Nightmare. And that poem, I'll tell you, to this day, I hope someday I run into that gentleman, is my ex-husband would play basketball. And as they were playing, this guy just, man, he caught my eye. He did not strike me as your typical, and in my ignorance at 22, thinking that homelessness came with a certain look to it.
Yeah.
That it meant you were drugs. It meant I never knew about veterans being homeless. That blew my mind. And as so I started talking to him. And I remember, in my 22-year-old outgoing self, I was just like, you don't look like you should be homeless. It's your story. And he entertained me. And every time we would go there and they would play basketball, I would sit with him and I would ask him questions. And I ended up writing a poem where he's on like this stage pulling out thorns, essentially, in front of this audience who's just like, why am I even here? Like, why am I held captive to have to listen to you? And
Yeah.
how it changes throughout the poem, the atmosphere of just realizing, like, you're human. I'm human. One missed paycheck, a month of missed paychecks, wherever
Yep.
you are in life, we just don't know. But in especially today, even more so than 20 years ago when I wrote that, there's so many people living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's even a hard, like, thank God for negativity in the banks and them letting you go up to a certain amount, because some people have lived there for a long time.
Yeah.
So with your writing, similar to like what I do, which I think is why I enjoy you so much, there's not just one audience for it. There's not just like, hey, if this is your cause, come read me because I'm all about human rights and going after creativity. And then at the same time, it's not just, hey, learn how to be a better writer. There's life into it. There's a mix. Do you have a favorite subject to write about? You had no clue where I was going with that, because I didn't either.
um, I've got 6 of my novels are called the Shadow series, and it looks into I mean, it's the classic good versus evil, um, and they're pretty dark novels, and they're based really on Ted Bundy was our paper boy when I was growing up, and I've been fascinated by that fact that this normal kid riding by on his bike, could turn out killing 30 women, because he just appeared to be just a normal teenager. I would say hi, I'd wave at him when he'd ride by, he'd throw the paper, and And that's my memory of him. And, Dad would write him a check for Christmas for a bonus. And that's all I remembered, and you'd forgotten about him. He's one of millions of faces you see. And then all of a sudden he pops up on the news 10 years later. And it's like, oh my God, how can there be that kind of evil walking around among us and we don't even recognize? And so the Shadow series is based on that. That's, the evil among us that we just don't recognize. And whether evil is a real entity or not, that's besides the point. That there are evil people that we just simply don't recognize. We don't know they're there. We know they're there, but we don't realize it's the person in front of us. That's my favorite topic to write about, but I'm not sure there's a reason for it other than the fact that I'm just very comfortable writing that series of books. And maybe I'm too comfortable. Maybe I need to start branching out. The next book on my list is a book that's based on Bundy, growing up in that neighborhood. There was a 12-year-old girl that was kidnapped in 1962, and her name was Anne Marie Burr. She was kidnapped from her upstairs bedroom, 3 blocks from our house, and she just disappeared. Middle of the night, so the kid just off the face of the earth. And they've never found her. But Bundy was their paper boy, and he was 14 at the time. And it's always been suggested that that was his first kill, because he was friends with this girl. She used to follow him around the route. And it's entirely possible but no, there's no proof of that. Anyway, the next book that I'm going to write is about growing up in the 60s, memories of the 60s. It's going to be called Loss of Innocence. And it's about how we used to we'd go to bed with our windows open, the doors locked, or the doors unlocked, cars unlocked. You would walk around in the middle of the night. You never felt like there was something to be afraid of. And that disappearance of that little girl changed all that for our neighborhood. All of a sudden there was fear in the neighborhood. For the first time ever, people started locking the door and walking in. And so that's what the next. So I don't know. There's a dark side to me, Shell, that it's probably good I just write about this stuff, and that gives me the avenue to let it loose, and all of the memories that I just assume put on paper rather than walk around depressed or angry or whatever for the rest of my life. So that's probably my favorite avenue as I write about the dark side of life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not terribly uplifting at times, but that's just where I go.
So I had this debate with the book I have coming out. People who know me over the last decade, maybe like 15 years, they know me as this happy-go-lucky Christian girl. I mean, I have my moments, like the last couple of years, I've complained a lot about why I'm not where I want to be, yada, yada. But only a very intimate few people saw that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I show up, and it's authentic to who I am, is I prefer, like, if I wake up and I'm in a bad mood, I'll go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That is my choice. I have that choice. Or if I can't, because I have somewhere to be or something to show up to, then I purpose that I'm not going to stay in this all day, because I don't like that. I remember a time, maybe a year and a half ago, I stepped away from all friends and everything because I'd gotten so in my own head about why I wasn't where I wanted to be. And it wasn't like life was bad. I just wasn't where I wanted to be. And I was so into it that that's all I would talk about. And I was like, I don't want to be that friend. Just let me just stay away from people. And so something that I thought about when I was putting this book out, it's poetry from going back to 86. I was 9 years old for the very first poem in there. I wrote, it's about friends and enemies, and it's this little 6-line poem that my little 3rd grade mind wrote about friends and friends and lovers and enemies, and how it was this play on words, and it's so innocent and so shows what a deep thinker I was even at 9. And the poems, though, it then goes into when I was a state kid, when I was in foster care, juvenile hall, how I felt about becoming a teen mom. I was 16 when I got pregnant with my daughter. Different situations that there's ones that talk about needles in my arms. Now, I've never been a needle drug user. I never got into that kind of drug, thankfully. but the expression of it, because of the group I hung around with and understanding from different rehabs I had been in, etc., it always, you felt like somebody wasn't really a drug user. I don't really have an issue if I'm just snorting cocaine. You know,
Yeah.
it's the heroin
Yeah.
addicts who have the
Yeah.
issue. They're the
Yeah.
ones who die. You never hear about cocaine overdoses,
Yeah.
and yet they happen. And so I would write these poems either from this place of where I was or this place of where I was going. And some of them in the book are very dark. Oh my God. Well, so then there's a poem in the book where I try to write this like, oh God, you're so great. It is terrible. I actually put it in the book to prove the point that we all have the place we're good. And mine is not with the David kind of beautiful stuff. Mine is with the David, like, kill my enemies kind of. What are
Yeah.
you doing? Have you forgotten me? But so I understand that writing from the dark side. Now what's interesting, I'm a nonfiction writer, and that as a ghostwriter, that is where almost all of my stuff has been. I've done a couple of movies and books that were in the on the fiction side, and some of them changed me too much. You know, I shared a story with Robin when I interviewed him about how I had to write a certain like mob thriller that involved, I had an actual number of F words I had to add to the script, and
Yeah.
by the time I was done, like, I was saying the F word so much, I was like, no more of this. But so fiction is a whole other type of writing, though. Excuse me. Even when I do like a creative thing, oh sorry, where I take like an idea of a character and then pull them through. For doing it for myself, I struggle. I don't, do you, so how did you, I'm fascinated with the Bundy thing. Like, I just finished, I don't watch TV a lot, but when I do, I like binge watching. It's where I'll just take a whole mental health day and
Yeah.
don't bother me. I'm watching Netflix, and I watched the Bundy tapes with him, which I was fascinated by.
Yeah.
We had a situation when my husband was teaching where one of his sub school students had to leave one night because they found out, national news, that his dad was a high profile serial killer. And it shook like everything, because when this guy was announced, like, he was the son of this guy that this guy had lived a normal life, and like, crazy. And it's like you see those things. So hearing you talk about how you were like, because I remember watching the specials on the Ted Bundy tapes, I think, and then there was another one that came out with him too, which might have been a movie, and it was like he was so normal, and just like us, and he could have been me. And so I know how character development works when I'm doing it for others, because I'm paid and I have to do it. But when I'm doing it for me, I like the blog type writing and short stories because it's done, that it is, and I leave. I struggle with the moving pieces and the development. How do you do that? You know, how do you, does it just come naturally? Because like, to me, I find fiction and nonfiction to be two totally different types of writing. So share your thoughts on that. Like
Now, are you
developing
talking about how do I move it from one book to another, or how do I just develop character?
Anything, yeah, when it comes to that character. So the thing that I find with stories, like actual novels and books that are different, is you've got to develop that character. In a movie, you have to do it in this finite 2-hour period to keep attention. In a book, you've got to do it to keep that person reading. Unlike a movie, they can't get up, go fix guacamole, come back with chips and guac, and okay, maybe I missed a couple. Like with a book, if I'm taking my attention away, I can't move forward. So how do you deal with that?
All of the characters in my novels, and here we go back to the dark days. All of the characters in my novels are extremely flawed human beings. You know, they're good at their core, but if you look at them wrong, they just as soon shoot you. Okay. So there's this part about them that you really want to know, and you'd really like to have them as a next door neighbor, but don't go have a drink with this guy because he might be having a bad day and you're going to be in the hospital. Those sort of people. And all of the characters in my book, the main characters of the Shadow series, are like that. There are parts about them that you just absolutely adore, and there's other parts about them that you just cringe and you don't want to ever meet someone like that. And that's the way I view life more than the development of those characters is based on how I view people in regular life. I think that's true of all of us. Excuse me. I think there's a side to all of us that most of us just don't want to know. We don't want to meet that person. The part that we see in public is not the whole picture. And I never met Mother Teresa, so let's just push her off the board completely. The people that you and I meet daily,
Yeah.
I just think there's a side to them that it's probably just as well we never see, or what's going on in their brain. I had a mentor in counseling that told me that the most dangerous real estate in the world are the 6 inches between my 2 ears, because what's happening inside my brain, it really doesn't need to ever be shown in public, and so that's how I developed my characters for that novel series. And really, even not in that series, there was a book I wrote called Resurrecting Tobias. Mm-hmm. And Tobias really was me. He's
okay.
This normal guy. He's got some skills in athletics. He's got all of his dreams, and then life just beats the hell out of him. And it's how he handles those obstacles, and he doesn't handle them well at all. And I didn't either. I scrambled for 50 years to try to figure out how in the hell to walk upright and appear normal. And it's went through the alcoholism, and I know treatment centers intimately. I can walk in and I know exactly where the tables are going to be set, and I know when the meals are, and I got that down pat, baby. And it's like, Tobias just had to figure out that it was okay to be him, and all of the dreams, none of that stuff is important. He just had to figure out how to be Tobias. And everybody loved Tobias. Everybody thought he was the greatest guy in the world, but there was a side of Tobias, once he had a drink or two, it's like, lock the doors because you don't want this guy coming in the house. And so that's how my characters develop. Even the ones that you think are going to be the greatest protagonists in the world, it's like they'll turn around and do something. It's like, good God, what happened to you? Well, just being normal, just being a human, So I hope that doesn't sound like it's dark. I don't think everyone is evil. I don't think everyone is inherently bad, but I think there's a side to all of us that just, thankfully the good wins out most of the time.
I might be jaded because I've been within the church in various roles for a long time. I think every human has a dark side. I completely agree with you on that. And I think it's an interesting statement about the real estate between our ears, because I'm an avid advocate for journaling. I think journaling is so important. Many of the nonfiction books that I've ghostwritten, I'll have somebody come with an idea or a template. Like I do the ghostwriting where it's their stuff that I'm just giving words to because they don't have time or whatever. That's the ghostwriting I did for 10 years. And now I don't do ghostwriting as much. I'm really trying to get away from being known as one and move more into the coaching where I'm working with you. And so sometimes that might involve us, me doing some writing to help you discover your voice. But for the most part now, every book going out is 75% or more their words, not mine. But when I was doing it, sometimes it would be interesting because somebody would come with an idea and I would go to a journal and I'd be able to pull like, oh, okay, here we go. And that was how I got so good at it so quickly, is I just was very good at attracting people who had the same kind of thoughts or wanted to explore things in a similar way. I think knowing from my past, I've often said in the church sense, right? It's like, oh, well, you're a whole new creation and the old is gone and all that good stuff. And I do believe that. I do believe what the Bible says. But I think that we sometimes try so hard to forget who we used to be and distance ourselves so much from it. And this was something that I'd had to learn in my own life is probably about 10 years ago when I went through the divorce and like my whole world got rocked. I remember having to come to this place of who am I? Like, I'm not his wife anymore. I'm
Yeah.
not just her mom now, because I always was my daughter's mom. But
Right.
it was like all of a sudden I had to figure out, what do I even like to do? Do I even like music? I was such a big fan of his music, but do I even like sitting around with a guitar? And I really had to start going back to those basics that most people do at 12 or 13, but I didn't have a time to do because I was navigating a system that was telling me how to think and how to defend myself. And I look back to like my 16-year-old self, and you want to talk about darkness. One of the poems that I wrote is called The Reflection. And it opens up with asking you, like, do you ever see this in the mirror? And it goes to tell you what I saw, and what I saw is not good.
Yeah.
And it ends, and I never remember any of my poetry. I'm a one who reads it from the, I can remember a line here or there, but I don't write for punchlines. So
Mhm.
a lot of the time I don't. But I remember in the end, you're reading this poem and you're just like feeling for this person, like, wow. And you're either relating to it because you do see that when you look in the mirror, but you don't really know where it's going. And at the very end of the poem, it says, "'Cause this is what I see every morning." And I was like, I remember I'd put all that away because, oh, I'm new. I'm a new creation now. And I'd stuck all my poetry away for well, and I was married and going through the dark time. And we had a lot of issues. And so I like stopped writing poetry because it got to be so dark that I couldn't even tolerate it.
Yeah.
But in order for it to be so dark, I couldn't tolerate it. Guess what? That had to mean there was that within me,
Yeah.
and that
Yep.
hurt and that pain. And I think where we go wrong sometimes is that we think the darkness is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
We're so taught evil and good from a religious, but take away the beliefs.
Yep.
Darkness is needed. If we didn't have day and night, like, just go live in where, I think we had this argument a couple months ago. Actually, when my uncle was passing away, we had this argument in the hospital about, like, I think it's Alaska, right? It's like 6 months of darkness.
Yeah.
Or Sweden, somewhere there's like, and it's like, ask those people how they feel not having light and darkness when you
Yeah.
are living in it for so long. And we need the darkness to appreciate the light. And
My wife and I went to the Tom Hanks movie about Mr. Rogers,
okay,
and I loved the movie, and I loved Mr. Rogers and all that. But at the end of the movie, I looked at my wife and said, "I don't think I would have liked Mr. Rogers. He was too damn nice. He was always nice. It's like, come on. I don't
almost
know
like
people."
you're waiting for the other side to come out. Like,
Yeah.
what's your secret life like?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about the past. It's like writing the memoir was really good for me because I had to stop and look at the debris of the past.
Yeah.
My dad died when I was 20, and he was the central figure in my life. And I was a happy-go-lucky kid in college, had not a care in the world, and he dropped dead. And
Oh,
all of a sudden, I was supporting my family. I was working plus going to college, sending the money to mom to pay the bills and all that. And writing the memoir made me look at that and see that when he died, I quit being happy. I changed as a human being. It was that monumental in my life. And then as I was introduced to alcohol and as I was married and as other problems came up, I forgot to be happy. I forgot how to be happy. And to try to explain that to someone who's never gone through that, it's almost impossible because it sounds so stupid. How do you forget to be happy? You know, but you have to be there. If you've seen the dark sides, you get it. And so that infiltrates all of my writing. There is a dark side, there is a darkness, there is a time that we just forget to be happy. We don't know how to do it. And so I've had to train myself over the last 13 years to see the happiness in life again. It's been quite a journey to just get to the point today where I wake up in the morning and I actually enjoy waking up.
yeah.
I don't have this major dark curtain that I have to cross through to get to bedtime. And that's
Yeah.
huge. That's huge for me.
And I think it's good to write those things, this is something, you know, I recommend everybody write a memoir. I used to, when I was ghostwriting them, I thought they were only for special people, just
No.
because the people I wrote them for were special. So it made sense.
Yeah.
And then when I was putting together, so my book is not a memoir, it's poetry. But what I did is, because of the fact that so many people, for 15 years, for more than, I mean, I'm 43, more than half my life's been spent in this like newer personality, but then really morphing from the last 10 to 15 years. Like my
Yeah.
divorce was a huge catalyst in my life. But
Yeah.
in writing the poetry, I didn't feel it was right for the people who knew me in this space in life to just be suddenly, because you know, some people support you and buy your book not because they really want to read it, but because
Right.
they will, because they know you. And I was
Right.
like, it's not right to those individuals or the people who meet me when I'm speaking and they hear about the sadness. You know, over the last 10 years, I started really having to pick up that person again and look at her and how did she help morph me, instead of hating who she was and distancing like we're two separate entities. How to embrace that became a piece of me that is why I am who I am today.
Yeah.
And I not had
Yeah.
to fight for my existence and learn how to advocate for myself because the social worker sucked and because my PO died and because of all this other stuff. I would not be who I am today. I also
Exactly.
wouldn't have the caring I have today for the children in the system.
Yeah.
And so, without going too much into it, it's like I remember when I was writing, there was a point where I began crying from reading my own story. And I thought, oh God, I can never tell anybody this. I don't want to put out a book out there that's going to make it. And so I put it away, Bill. Now, mind you, I'm ghostwriting. I'm helping other people tell their story. I'm learning this voice coaching thing because I'm realizing I don't want to just sit behind a computer all day and write other people's stories. There's
Yeah.
got to be more that I can do with this talent and coming into who I am and everything. And it was about 2.5 years ago, I picked up the book again. Over the last 4 years, I've been kind of dipping into it, writing some more to round it out. Well, then I finally had to go back to those poems again. And now I had to sit with all of my, like thousands of poems and decide which 30 were going to make it into this book.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there and just, again, crying. And I'm like, God, I'm dark. And then, you know what happened is I mailed one of them. I found one that hit me so profoundly. And I had made a new friend who had also had a past. And I sent it to her and I'm like, I came across this tonight and it spoke to me. It really touched me. And I love when my writing touches me.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
times we are so busy writing and putting stuff out there that we forget to be a connoisseur of our own art,
Yeah.
our own
Exactly.
stuff. And her reaction to it, she was like, she reminded me of what I teach everybody now is it's not for everybody to love. It's not, I'm not writing for everybody. I'm writing for the people who are broken, for the people, like my people that I connect with most are the ones who feel so shattered that
Yeah.
they can't be placed together. And
Yeah.
it's where I love like the restoration analogy. People who restore furniture practically break it to turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah.
We can't judge those dark places. And I'm excited to read because I read the Tobias one. I read that book. I have to read that. So I do have to tell you, Bill, you are not great at marketing your that, or I may not be great about going to your actual website, because I will admit I read a lot of my stuff through the reader in WordPress. But I didn't know you had, I remember you had a series, but I don't remember it being explained in the way you just explained it. Because the TED, like the one coming from this place of normal people with dark sides, so speaks to the part that gets me ousted from so many churches, which is like, are you really Christian? How can you? Because it's like, I see the dark side. You are great and you're doing this and you're presenting that image so great over here, but your kids in my youth group.
Yeah.
Don't forget they're talking to me about what's said. And I've been there too as a mom, where sometimes you hear, like I remember having moments throughout life, especially during the divorce, where I'd say something to my teenager And then I'd hear like another mother say something along the same vein, not the same words, but along the same, and I'd be judging so bad. Like, how do you even have kids?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did they let you procreate?
Yeah.
And then I'd
Yeah.
be like, oh my God, but what I said wasn't so different. I just said it with a smile, or
Yeah.
I said it nicer. And, you know, I was always that mom, like, oh, that's great that you got a B minus, but why wasn't it an A? Because that was my best. My
Yeah.
best was a B minus, and you can either love me where I am or, and so it's a lot of that learning, and a lot of what I've seen has helped shape recently, you know, just in showing up and stuff. So to close, because I know we've been on for a little while, I don't have a timer, so some of these go 30 minutes and some go hours, but I imagine we've been on for a little bit. You have the books, you have the writing coaching. What else would you like the world to know, Bill? You're my first author, by the way, so thank you for being
Oh,
on
well,
with me.
thank you.
Yeah, I
I'm honored.
appreciate it. I'm so excited when I thought to reach out. I was like, I want Bill. Bill's on my 2020 list, and so thank you for saying yes. What
Oh,
would you like people to know? So let's do the plugs, the marketing side. We've got the series about the shadows.
mhm.
So let's do the plug, the whole plug, so people know how to find you. The
Well, okay.
uncomfortable moment.
Okay, this goes back to that marketing thing. I've literally been laughing for like weeks over this. The author page on Amazon, I hadn't updated that in like 4 years. And so I went to it after I finished the memoir, because I was going to put the memoir on the author page, and I realized like half my books are missing. Like no one would even know I wrote like
Exactly.
5 books from, and so I updated that finally. So anyway, everything's on Amazon, and then William D. Holland. God, I don't do this, Shell. I don't.
I'm
Let me
asking
go.
you to because I know that, like me, like you just mentioned this, and I am so ready to go download the Shadow series. I want to read it, and I need some good fiction because I've been reading way too much nonfiction and self-help lately. I need a good book that can pull me into somebody else's world. But I'm asking you to do this because we don't do it enough. And I'm going to project on you. One of my biggest struggles, I have had 4 friends in the last 2 years publish books that were crap books. They
Mhm.
were crap. And I can't tell them that. And whoever's watching this that knows me can now wonder, is it my book? If I haven't talked to you about your book, it might be. But and it hurt me, not that they publish crap books, but what hurt me was I don't tell people what I do or how to find out more. And so my friends didn't even know that I have the capacity, that I could have helped them, or at least if I didn't have the time, put them in contact with good editors. My whole
Yeah.
circle is editors and proofreaders. You know, you'd never know it by reading my blog or the Instagram, and you know, but those are my times off. But so the reason I'm asking you to do this is recently I had a friend who is struggling with her voice. And after 2 years of people putting out stuff, and then another person who put out a very good book but went with a terrible publisher and got like so shysted out of $10,000. I was talking with her, and I finally, it like was that breaking point for me where I realized I market for a living. That is what I do for a nonprofit. That is what I've done even on the little jobs I've taken. Marketing is my profession. That's my
Yeah.
W-2 world. I
Yeah.
don't market myself.
Yeah.
I don't do any of it. And because of that, I had this friend that I see every week who is struggling with her voice. I'm hearing her say things. And finally I was like, you do know, like, that is what I do. Like what you're talking about in these struggles and everything I'm listening, like it is what I do. Can I please help you?
Yeah.
I don't want money. I'm not asking you buy my program. I am saying I'm your friend and I have these skills. And so I know it's different when it's an entertainment thing. Trust me, you're going to come back at me and be like, hey, Shell, remind me how you told me to market myself. You're not doing it with your book. Touche, Bill, touche.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
you to do it right now because number one, this series was intended to help people know about who else is out there. And second, because there might be other people who are looking for some great books who are tired of all the ones you can find on the bookshelves in Barnes and Noble and bam. So plug
Okay.
away, please.
Well, my first novel 10 years ago was the 12:59 shuttle from yesterday to today. Long title. Total nonsense book. Okay, it was built around we have to take care of the environment, we're killing the earth, blah blah blah. But Bev wanted me to write something that was in the style of Tom Robbins. I don't know if you've ever read Tom Robbins, but it's like madness on print. You know, it's like total insanity. And so I did my version of that, and I absolutely love the story, love the characters. They're some of the best characters I've ever developed. But the writing is like, oh my God, who did this? It's like that bad. And so I have to go back and rewrite that, and I will in a couple of years. But that was my first novel. Then I did Resurrecting Tobias. Then I did 5 of the Shadow series, and I did 6 of a novella series, Billy the Kid. I did, I don't know, the Ultimate Writing book, which was like 50 articles from Hub Pages on how to write.
Okay.
I've done that. And I do the couple blogs, Artistry with Words you mentioned. I do a Living Simple blog about, cutting back and downsizing. We're going to be moving into a tiny house in a year.
Okay.
One of those tiny, tiny houses. We're going to do that in a year. So that's what that blog's about. And then there's the coaching thing. And you can find me, just email me for coaching at Holland1145 at yahoo.com.
Okay. And are you
That's
on
it.
social media besides the blogs?
Facebook is all I do.
And you do Facebook as a profile or just as a page as well? Do you have a Facebook page or is it just
I have
a friend
a
profile?
Facebook. I have William D. Holland Professional Writing.
Perfect.
There's that page, and there's my just regular page for
okay.
me.
All right. I'll make sure I'm following the William D. Holland Professional Writing. So, and I'll
Thank you.
put that in the plug. I'm also going to include in the YouTube below. So for people watching the video, it will be below. I'll make sure I put links to your books as well. So
Thank
I'm
you.
really excited. My wallet just got a little less fat, but I'm going to go get that Shadow series because that one really interests me. I really enjoyed the Resurrecting Tobias. I remember reading that one. And then I'm looking forward to reading just because of the snippets you shared. And just from having seen your career develop, I'm really interested in reading your memoir to learn more about the man behind the face now that we see, and the career, that these words that I've seen and really enjoyed for, gosh, it has been 12 years. That's crazy.
It has been, yeah.
And seeing you evolve just even from when you first came out saying like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, into like, now I'm like, how has he not been writing forever? So I'm excited to read your fiction. I remember with Resurrecting Tobias, I felt like there was some, so it's interesting to hear you say it was kind of based on you, because I felt like there was some real life analogy here. And so it'll be interesting to read the Shadow series and see what I pick up on. But I've been looking for some good like thriller, and I love, like, that's actually my go-to genre. I think maybe because it does make me step so far out of where I am. I love a good mystery novel and like the Jack Reacher series and those kind of things. So
yeah, exactly.
Bill, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. This is a Saturday, and so this is my first Saturday interview as well. And thank you for making it a fun time of learning about you. So,
thank you, Cheryl.
All right, Bill, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.